Okay, Tov, Shavua Tov. Today's daf is daf Kuf Lamed Ches in Bava Basra Shilin, as we learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, Sim Batzar V'Shivya, and Refuah Shlema for Dvorah Fegachaya Bas Chana Shaindel. The Gemara at the last couple lines in the first lines of Kuf Lamed Zayin Beis and the first lines of Kuf Lamed Ches said that if a man gives something to somebody else, let's say Reuben gives a gift to Shimon, and Shimon doesn't want it, he writes something else, and I guess I don't want it. So first thing Gemara says, he acquires it anyway. Too bad. Guy gave it to you, you got it. And Gemara says, no, he doesn't acquire it. So it's really no machlokas. If a man says, I don't want it right from the beginning, you can't force me to take something. I don't have to accept the gift. If it's a gift, you can't force me into it. Remember, a Yerusha is automatic. If a man dies with no will, his sons get it automatically. They can't, it's theirs, right? They have the estate. But if a gift, I could refuse it. But if initially the man accepted it, and then after he opened it up and says, no, I don't want this, too bad. Once you accept it, it's yours. Now, you can give it away, but it doesn't automatically. You can give it to Hefker. You can give it to somebody else, but it's yours for that period of time. Sort of like to give a bad example, it's like the requirement to file an F-bar for people who have $10,000 or more, that value in an account for an American citizen. Not for non-Americans, for American citizens. If you have an account anywhere in the world outside of the United States and you have the value of $10,000, one person said to me, oh, I had like 1,000,000 shekels. I didn't have any dollars, no, it's the value of $10,000. You have to, now, what does that mean? Maybe you didn't want to get any money. You didn't have any, you may be very careful. You didn't accept any money from anybody. You didn't have any, but if somebody put the money in your account, that's it. Too bad. If you had the money in your account, it's gone. You can give it away. Give it to tzedakah, but it was in your account. That's what you mean over here too. Once it's yours, it's yours. Amar Nachman, the second line on Kuf Lamed Ches Amar Amar Nachman Yisrael. Zichlo Yedei Acher. Let's say Reuben gave it to Shimon via Levi. He gave Levi something. He says, "I'd like you to give this to Shimon." I give Shimon. Now Shimon may have been there, might have heard about it, but he gave it to him via Levi. V'shasak ul v'sof. First, Shimon, the recipient, was quiet. Then he cried loud afterwards. He said, first he didn't say anything, and then he said afterwards, no, I don't want it. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak apparently is saying, that's machlokas Shimon Gamliel. What's the machlokas? To Shimon Gamliel and Rabbanan. The Tanya HaKosev Nechosav La'acher, give something to somebody else. Vayiban Avodim. A man was giving his assets, Reuben was giving his assets to Shimon. Shimon was very happy. He was pleased to get stuff for free. But among them were Avodim Kananim. He had some slaves. Now the man said, besides the fact that you're not supposed to give away your slaves, Lolam Bem Tavodu, Shimon didn't want the slaves, even though he got them for free. You know why? Because if you have a slave in the house, it costs you more to take care of him than the work that he does for you. He didn't want to bother with it. So man gave his assets to somebody else, and among them were Avodim Kananim, and Shimon didn't want him. Reuben wanted to give Shimon. V'amar Allah, he says, I don't want him, Ef Shiban, I don't want them. Imhoya Rabban Sheni Cohen. Let's say Shimon was a Cohen. Reuben was a Yisrael. But Shimon doesn't make a difference what Reuben was. But Shimon was a Cohen, they could eat truma, meaning that Shimon acquired them. Now this is pretty strange. Reuben's giving stuff to Shimon, among them at Eved Kanani, and Shimon says, I don't want him. Too bad, he's yours. That's pretty strange. That's what the Tanakhama says. Shimon Gamliel, no. Kiman Shomer Allah Yefshi. Fine. One Shimon says, I don't want him. Kvar Zochu Ben Yorshim. You know who got him? Either the original donor, or if he died, let's say the man was dying, then the donor's Yorshim would get them. What does that mean? Reuben's children would get it because he says, I don't want it. So let's understand something. We have seemingly a machlokas between Shimon Gamliel and Rabbanan. Shimon Gamliel and Rabbanan about a simple case where a man says, Reuben says, I'm giving you my assets to Shimon, including, I'm giving you my assets, including an Eved Kanani. Shimon says, I don't want him. According to the Tanakhama, you know what? He gets them anyway. Too bad. And the Eved Kanani can eat. Let's say Reuben wasn't a Yisrael and Shimon was a Yisrael, and Shimon was a Kohen. He gets to eat truma right now. He belongs to Shimon. Shimon Gamliel says, no. If he says, I don't want him. He doesn't know who gets them. He says he doesn't want him. Well, it either goes back to the donor or to the donor's children, according to Shimon Gamliel. Rashbam brings down that Rish Lakish holds that if you give something to somebody and the other person doesn't want him, it's hefker. Anybody who could take him, call a machzika, whoever wants to make a kinyan on it, he gets to acquire it. It's sort of free. It's up in the air. It's kol hamachzik bo zochaba. That's Rashi. Kol hamachzik bo zochaba. Anybody gets it. Now the halacha is like Rish Lakish in that case, when a man definitely gave something to the other guy, and the other guy doesn't want it. Who gets it? Well, does it just go back to you, or your Yorshim, or it's Hefker? Rish Lakish says it's Hefker. That's when it's clear. He says right away, I don't want it. But here the question is Vavinambo. What do you mean over here? How can the Rabbanan say if Reuben gives something to Shimon, gives an Evet Kanai to Shimon, Shimon says I don't want it? How can you force him to take it? We said at the top of the page, if he said right away I don't want it, he doesn't get it. So what do you mean if the guy says I don't want it? No, he's yours anyway, and he's the Evet of a Kohen. If Shimon was a Kohen, he gets the Truma. How could that be? As soon as the man says I'm giving it to you, the other guy says I don't want it, and I don't accept it. How could you say it belongs to him? Rav explains it. If a man says right up front, Shimon, the recipient says, I don't want it, of course he doesn't get it. I never accepted it. I don't want it. You can't force me to receive a gift. Pardon? So that's a machlokas. According to Rish Lakish, it's Hefker. Because the first person, the donor, removed himself from it, says, not mine anymore, I gave it to you. The other guy doesn't want it, it's Hefker, according to Rish Lakish. Shimon Gamliel says, no, it goes back to the donor or the donor's children if he died. Okay, that's a machlokas. All right, but that's a machlokas. Now, okay, pardon?
Who makes it Hefker?
By giving it away and it didn't go to that person, it becomes the first person made it Hefker. Yeah, the second person never acquired it. If he says right away, I don't want it, I didn't acquire it, you can't force me to have it. It's like the case of the F-bar, meaning you have somebody put money into your account, you have it, but can you refuse it? That's the strange thing about banking. The once it's in your account, it's you can give it away, but it was there. You can't say I don't accept it. They don't ask you, do you want to accept it? I notice on BIT and these other kinds of things, the person has to accept it. If you get money, you have to accept it. Otherwise, that doesn't go into your account. But it's not that way with the bank account. Okay, anyway, that's just a bad example. But I mean to say that if he doesn't want it, he doesn't have to accept it. Everybody agrees with that. If he says right up front, I don't want it, I don't want it. Okay, Rish Lakish says it's Hefker. Shimon Gamliel says no, it belongs, it goes back to the donor. Okay, that's the Lokani. Shasik himself. Let's say he was quiet originally. He accepted it. He says, okay, he accepted it. And then after he says, I don't want it. Now you change your mind. It's yours. Now you can give it away, but it was yours. So if he screamed up front, I don't want it, he never said. If he waited, first he accepted it, and then he said, I don't want it, too bad, it was yours. Where's the machlokas? How do we start off the dot by saying Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, if Reuben gave it to Shimon via Levi, a third person, then else for Shasek, at first he was quiet. Well, at first he was quiet. Shimon, when he heard about it, he saw him giving it to Levi on his behalf, and then he cried out. He didn't get it yet. He gave it to Levi. Reuben gave it to Levi to give to Shimon. Tanakama Savar made a Shasek Kaninu. Tanakama says, well, since he was quiet at the beginning, he acquired it. That's the case where we say he giving an Evet Kanani to Shimon via Levi. Shimon didn't get it directly. He gave it to Levi to give to him. Shimon heard about it, didn't say anything. Tanakama says you acquired him. Okay, V'hai the Katsavach, right? So the Tanakama says Mishasa Kaninu. V'hai the Katsavach. I cried out afterwards. I don't want it. I don't want the problems. I don't want to receive it. You're now retracting. First you accepted it. Now you're retracting it. Right? What do you say? Normally you say but afterwards he said, I don't want it. So how can you be misakid for him if he didn't want it? The answer is he didn't say anything up front. Mashma that you accepted it originally. Now you're crying out. Now you're retracting. Okay, too late. It's yours. You can give him away, but it was yours. The fact that he cried out later on, he says, I don't want it, that shows that he never really wanted it. So why didn't he say anything up front? Why didn't he scream out and say, I don't want it? The reason he didn't cry out initially is, why should I cry? I didn't get it yet. He gave it to him to give to me, but I don't have to make a fuss right now. I didn't get it yet. When I get it, I'll cry out. And that's what he did it. But he went, so that's the machlokes. The machlokes is where Reuben gave a gift to Shimon through Levi. And in this case, let's say it's an Evet Kanani, just an example. I didn't want the Evet Kanani. It's too much trouble. I don't want to feed him and take care of him and worry about him, etc. And he gets pizzuyim, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to deal with him. Okay. If you said something up front, I don't want him, everybody agrees it's not yours. If you were quiet, you first accepted it and then you cried out, too bad, too late. You did get him for a time, give him away, do what you want, but it was yours. If he gave it to him through a third party and he didn't say anything, but later on he cried out, that's machlokas. Rabbanan say, since he didn't say anything up front, that means he accepted it and now he can give it away, but it was his. And during that period of time, during the time that it was his, the Eved Kanani could eat truma if the second person, if Shimon was a Kohen. Rav Shimon Gamliel says no. Since he cried out later on, that shows he never really wanted him. Why didn't he say anything up front? Because he figured I didn't get him anyway yet. And Rashbam points out the halacha is like with shlokesh in general. When you refuse it, who gets it? Who gets it? Shlokesh says it's hefker. Shimon Gamliel says no. It goes to right. Shimon Gamliel says if it goes to back to the donor if it's that way. But over here, so Rashbam points out, Rashbam is about 6 lines before the lines get wide. 6 lines before the lines get wide. The Divrei Maskil is Yorshim, but that's the Divrei Maskil is much further up. Here we're looking about 6 lines before the lines get wide. And in this machlokas that we have over here, that what? That if Reuben gave it to Shimon via Levi, Rabbanan say you were quiet, it's yours. Shmuel says no. At the end, I cried out. I didn't cry out at the beginning because I thought I didn't get it yet anyway. Why? The Kaimalo in Hilchas Shmuel, we hold the halacha is like a Shmuel b'Mishnah Seinu. So over here we have machlokes of Shmuel. In other words, the Rabbanan say if he gave it to him via Levi, he knew about it. He knew, but he didn't get it yet, right? Reuben gave it to Shimon via Levi. He says, okay, Levi, I'm giving it to you. Shimon heard about it, but he didn't say anything. You know what? It belongs to Shimon right away. This that he cried out later on, he's retracting. And here we say the halacha is like Rabbanan, even though normally we have a rule that the halacha is like Shmuel in a Mishnah. So listen to this, right? The Hada Kaimulan says Rashbam, 5 lines before the lines get wide in Rashbam. The Hada Kaimulan Shmuel Mishnah Seinu. I know Mishnah if it's a Mishnah. Avo Brisa, this is simply a Brisa. This is a Tanya, like a Brisa that we had a Tanya. This Machlus Ram Shmuel is a Brisa. Avo Brisa lo El Aloch Rabbanan. The Mishnah Seinu, the words Mishnah Seinu is Masnisin Mashma, only a Mishnah. Avo Heichad Omer Mishnah. Hainunami Brisa, when it just Brisa could Omer Bama, Mishnah Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Kavanaki. When Rabbi Eliezer says Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said something, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says something Mishnah, that's pure, that's fine and clean and pure. We accept it. Mushamachi Kamon Kavase Bein Mishnah Brisa. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he says Kav. We say Mishnah Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is Kav. It's a little bit. He doesn't say a lot, but whenever he says something, we go by him. That Mishnah, when it says Mishnahs, that could be Mishnah or a Brisa. But when it says Halacha K'Pshim Mishnah Seinu, that means Dafka Mishnah. This is not a Mishnah, and therefore we go like the Rabbanan in this Machlokas. We're halfway down the page in the Gemara. Yeah.
So when Levi got it, he got it for
if it's a schus for him. If it's a schus, right, no, exactly. But is it a schus for him or not? Let's say I find an IOU that says you owe somebody $1 million. Would you like to have that IOU? You don't necessarily always want anything. So that's the point. Is it a schia or not? Should the Rabbanan say, since you didn't say anything and you knew about it, if you didn't know about it, that he didn't really accept it. But he knew about it. He knew that he gave it to Levi he knew that Reuben had given it to him, given it to Levi on his behalf, but he didn't say anything. So since he didn't say anything, he accepted it. That means it was a schia. It was a good zach, even if he wasn't there, but he heard about it. It's a schia for him. And therefore it's his. And that's how we pass like the Rabbanan. Shmuel says, since he cried out later on, it shows that he never really wanted it. Okay, we pass like the Rabbanan, says the Mishnah. Now we're about halfway down the page, Tana Rabbanan, beginning of a line. Tana Rabbanan, in the Gemara. Shchimera. Now we're going back to a Shchimera, man on his deathbed. Sh'omar, he said like this. On his deathbed, we had a rule before that when a Shchimera says something, Divrei Shchimera, the words of Shmuel, kiksuvin uchemesurin dami. It's as if they were written down in a shtar, in a document, and handed over already. So let's say he said, he's on his deathbed, and he said, listen, I'm going to give away 3 gifts from my cash, from my money. Tanu masayim zez leploni, give $200 to Reuben. V'shlosh meos leploni, and give 300 leploni to Shimon. Babra meos leploni, and 400 to Levi. So what would you say now? Let's say afterwards somebody so he gave away those gifts, right? Now, a Balchov, a creditor of the Shchimera came along, and wants his money. And that was the money they had given away. He'd given away 200, 300, but a total of $900. Now, let's say the creditor comes along and he has a claim of, let's say, $300. So do you do it proportionally? 200? The guy who got 200 gives away less. The guy, right? You get 400. The guy who gave 300, the guy who got 300 gets a little bit more, and the 400 gets even more because he got more. Do you do it proportionally? Ain't omim call it. You don't say, listen, wait a minute. The first guy got 200. The second guy got 300, right? The third guy got 400. So maybe you should say, listen, the guy who got the money first, that's his, right? The guy who got the money second, he's second. The guy who got the money third. So let's say the creditor comes along now and says, he owes me $300. Maybe you should just take that from the last guy because he got the money after the first two guys, right? The Shemara said, give 200 to Reuben, 300 to Shimon, 400 to Levi. Now a creditor comes along and he says, I owe me $300. He owes me $300 from the estate, and he's entitled to it. He has a balchov. He owed him $4. So he says, no. Do you go to the last guy only? He says, no. Since the Shemar really wanted to give all the money away at the same time, he just couldn't pronounce 3 different gifts at the same time. So you don't say that. Einomim kol hakodem b'shtar zocha. Whoever is first in the shtar, because you write down what the Shemara said. Zocha, whoever's there first. The fichach yotzal of shtar chov. You don't say. If a creditor came with a IOU, gov mikulam, you take the money from all of them, right? So it means that it's all equal. So the guy who got more would have to give away more. Understand? You give it proportionally. You give it proportionally to the to whatever the amount of the loan was. You give away proportionally. Aval, but let's say the Shemar said, listen. Give 200 to Reuven, but Achrav, after you give that 200, he's getting it first. After you give 300 to number 2, and then give 400 to number 3. Right? He said it first, this guy, then that guy. Then you always collect from the last guy first. You collect the loan from the last guy because the first guy who had the money before, right? It's the last guy. The balchov can only collect from the last person, he had the last lien, so to speak. In other words, when you gave the money away, it's like he had a shtar. I gave a gift to this guy, $200. And then let's say you gave 300 to another guy the next day. And another guy the next day, when a balchov comes along, he collects from the person who has the last lien on it. And that's what you'd say. Right? Therefore, if a balchov came along, a creditor came along now, and he says, I have an IOU that this person who just died owes me the money, go him an achron. You first collect from the last guy. Ain't if there's not enough there, go you collect from the second guy. Ain't if there's not enough there, go That's the rule. In other words, what the Shemara gives away is all considered given away at the same time, unless he says specifically, I'm giving to this guy first. Afterwards, whatever left, give the second guy, and afterwards give it to the third guy. Then that's like a gift on 3 different days. Tanarabanan. Another halacha about a Shemara. Shemara she'amar tuma saimzuz leploni b'ni b'chor. I'd like to give $200 to my son, the b'chor, karo'iloi, as befits him. He's deserving of this, karo'ilo. Now those words are extra, right? It is karoi. What do you say, karo'ilo? Now, does that mean that he gets $200 out of the estate as a b'chor? Is that his share or not? So he says, since he said karo'ilo, knows when he gets $200, he also gets his share as a b'chor. Meaning, the father, besides the chelik b'chor that the son was supposed to get, he gets a double share versus the other sons, right? Gets a double share versus the other sons. Besides that, he gets the $200 because that was given over and above. Since he said, give $200 to my son, who's my son the b'chor, as befits him, those words are extra to show that he gets that $200 besides the Yerusha. I'm giving it to him as a gift. Imamr, let's say the father said, give him the $200 bib choraso as his share as a b'chor, as the firstborn, yado al yona. Well, it depends. The b'chor now can either take the $200 if that was more than his share of the b'chor. Let's say as a b'chor was only going to get $150, whatever the deal was, right? Whatever the share was. So now his father told him, give him $200 as his rights for the b'chor, bib chorasa for his b'chor rights. So if the $200 is more, he was supposed to get $150, right? As a b'chor. So then now he's getting $200. Let's say his b'chor rights was $300. then he'll have to take that. He can get whichever one is higher. He gets the upper hand. So if he said, give it to my son, the Bechor, as befits him, he gets the gift plus the Bechor, plus the share of the Bechor. If he says, give it to him, Bibchoraso, then he only gets one or the other. He didn't say Karoila. He said, give it to him as his Bechor. No, he just he gets it either way. He says, give it to him for his Bechora rights, which means could go either way. If the Yerusha is more, right, then he can take it as his Yerusha. He gets the Yerusha right. He hasn't relinquished his rights. If that's more than his Bechor rights, then it was a gift, and he can take it. It's his choice. Ratza, right? Ratza notlan Bechoraso. So he could either take that money, or he could say, "Listen, I don't want that money. He wanted to give me that." Notice the father wanted to give him $200 as his Bechora share. He says, but my Bechor share is $300. You either made a mistake or what? I want my Bechor share. I don't want that as a gift. Don't tell me to take $200 as my Bechor rights. My Bechor rights is really $300. A similar thing with an Isha. Let's say Shchimar Shamar Tnu Masayim Labri Shamar Tnu Masayim Zuz Plonis Ishti. Give $200 to this my wife Karoila, which befits her, right? So is that a gift or is that her ksuba? So no, plus something else. Like, since he said Karoila as befits her, he's adding those extra words, gives her a stronger power. So she gets that $200 as a gift, and she gets her ksuba. If he says Imar Big Subas, if he says give her $200 as her ksuba, give her $200 for her ksuba, I'm paying her ksuba that way. Again, yada yada. Her hand she has the upper hand. Ratzon not lasan. If the $200 is more than a ksuba, she can take that. Ratzon not ksuba. If the ksuba is more, she takes that. Okay. The shchimera, another case. Shchimera shama tnu masayim zuz leploni balchovi. Give $200 to this guy, my creditor, Karoila. Again, he adds the extra words as befits him. That means he's giving him an extra $200. Notlan, he takes the $200 as a gift. Notlan chov. He also gets his chov. He also can collect. The creditor can still collect the chov besides the $200. Imar bichovo, if he says collect the $200, give $200 to this guy because I owe him. Give it to him as payment for the loan. Then remember bichovo, notlan bichovo. Right? Then he takes it as his chov, meaning he doesn't get $200 plus the chov, he only takes it as a chov. Says the Gemara, Mishum de Amur Karoilo Notlan the Notlas chov, just because he said, listen, Reuben owes Shimon $200, or Reuben $200, and he says, give him $200 as befits him, just because he said Karoilo, he gets to take the $200 plus he gets the loan also, that he gets the loan paid back, just because he said the words Karoilo. Maybe you understand that by his son, he's trying to give him more. By his wife, is a ksuba. She's been his wife all these years, but he owes $200 to somebody, and he says, give the $200 to this somebody as befits him. Just because he says as befits him, he gets both. Pardon?
Repeat.
Yeah, right. No, but here he's giving it as a gift. It clearly wasn't. It was a gift. Yeah. No, so I guess but he didn't say vak repeat. Yeah, but he just said if you can give it as a gift before. If it wasn't a case where it didn't look like repeat. It's a good point. Does it look like repeat? Maybe it doesn't look like a bit, it's because it's so much. It depends also on the size of the loan. Anyway, so he says, says Gemara, Mishum de Amar Karoila Notla, because of that, he takes the gift and he takes the loan. The Dama Karoila B'chol will come, and maybe just meant it fits him for the loan. Since I owe him $200, give him the $200 as befits him for the loan. Rav Nachman explained it this way. Amali Huna told me. We have many times with Nachman Rav Huna say this, say things together. He says, Huna, my friend told me, Amani Rabbi Kiva. It goes like Rabbi Kiva, meaning, more Rashbam explains it's not Daf Rabbi Kiva, but Rabbi Kiva is the one who says, when you say extra words, you're trying to add something. Where do we have Rabbi Kiva? We had him many times before. The Dayak Lishni said, Rabbi Kiva says, if you said extra words, you meant to add something. Ditzanan. Remember, a man says something, I'm selling you my house and the yard, everything, the depth, I'm selling you everything, but it doesn't include the pit of water or the cistern, doesn't include those things. Even though he says all the way down the depth and the height, I'm selling you my whole estate, the whole house, upstairs, downstairs, deep down, selling you everything, doesn't include the barbadus. Remember, Kiva says, since Mocher buying Yafa, I'm giving him everything, including the path leading up to the bore, to the pit. In other words, I'm selling my whole house. He doesn't get the bore. But you know what? Since I said everything, and I'm Mocher buying Yafa, I don't even have the path to get there. I have to take a helicopter to get there, or buy the walking rights to walk on the on the purchaser's land to get to my bor. The Chum say, no, you don't have to buy it there because Mocher buying Yafa. I sold him the house and the field and everything in there and the depth and the height and et cetera, et cetera. But if I kept the bor for myself, obviously I wanted access to the bor. So I don't have to buy the rights. I still have the rights to you to get to my bor. Rabbi Kiva says, if he said specifically, in other words, the bor wouldn't be included anyway. But if he said, I'm selling you the house with the exception of the bor, since he said the words chutz me'elu, he didn't have to say those. They wouldn't have been included anyway, because the house and the estate does not include the bor. But since he said chutz me'elu, there he doesn't have to buy a path. Even Rabbi Kiva says the path's included because he added the extra words. Since he didn't have to say chutz me'elu v'kamar, and he said it, the tfuya milsakos, he's coming to add something to say, I said besides that, so I get the path too. Hachanami here also. Again, Rashbam says it's not dafka Rabbi Kiva, but Rabbi Kiva is the one who emphasizes the idea. If you add extra words, it's meaning something. He didn't have to say karoi log. He could have just said, give this $200 to this guy that I owe the money to. Right? I owe this money to this guy, give him the $200. But he said karoi befits him. And since he didn't have to say it, and he said it, but he's coming to add something extra. And that's what he's doing here too. He's saying to add something extra. So if he says, give him $200 as befits him, he gets the $200 as a gift, and then he owes him the money anyway. Could very well be, although I don't know, that's lav dafka. You give him a ribbit. Usually the ribbit is paid when you pay back the loan, you give him the ribbit. That's lav dafka. We know a lot of loans and banks today are not done that way. You just pay back the ribbit and then you pay back the principal later on. Here, since he's giving it to him now, and he collects the loan, maybe the loan's only responsible, lav dafka maybe later on, but it's a good point. What about the ribbit aspect of it? So now the other way around. Till now, normally we talk about a shchimira who gives something away. By the way, we'll say this also in the next paragraph. We're going to start soon. Tomorrow, B'ez Hashem, we talk about Misha Mesa, a person who dies, and if it's on his deathbed, he gives everything away. So we said it's like it's written down and given away. Now, let's say miraculously he recovers, right? He's about to die, but he recovers. Then all the gifts that he gave away in that form as a shchimira are returned to him. He doesn't, it's like, because he's basically, when you give everything away, people like to keep some money for themselves. You don't want to give everything to the kids, you got nothing to live on. So you keep something for yourself. But if he gave everything away, it's obviously with the understanding, it's an presumption that he's giving it away because he's going to die. But had he known that he would have lived, he wouldn't have give it away. If he kept something for himself, he says, look, I got $1 million, I give away 900,000, I'm keeping 100,000 in case I live, then that's not Matna Shchimira. That's not Matna Shchimira. If he survives, right? If he can give it away as a healthy person. But the rules of Matna Shchimira, that if he survives, he gets it all back, that's only if he gave it all away. If he didn't give it all away, then whatever he gave away is still given, is considered given away. All right. So here, that's where we're talking about giving stuff away. What about if he says, this guy owes me money? He's on his deathbed. We don't know. He says, by the way, Yankel owes me $100. Make sure you get it. So Shchimir, what's the deal there? Talking about Shchimir, Shema money, Plummy. And there's Adam there who saw it. There are Adam there. They all came to surround him on the bed there. They thought he's going to die. And he said, Yankel owes me $100. Did the Adam have the right to write down, oh, you know what? We were here, and the Shchimera said that Yankel owes him $100. Now, they don't know that Yankel owes him $100. The Shchimera is saying that. Can they write that down? So he says, Adam Kosfin, they can write that down, even though they don't know if he owes him $100. He just said it, right? They can write that down. The Fichoch. Therefore, okay, now let's say Yankel comes along to collect the money now. I'm sorry, the Yorshim, who's collecting the money? The Yorshim want to collect the money from Yankel, right? So what happens now? The Shchimera said on his deathbed, Yankel owes me $100. The Adam wrote it down. That the Shchimera said he owes me $100. Now the Yorshim come to Yankel after the Shiva. They go to Yankel and they say, you owe the father $100. Says, do you have any proof? Well, we have the Adam saw that the Adam heard him say that. Okay, he said it. He could have said a lot of things. Maybe he was delirious. Maybe he made it up. That's a chulam. He thought, he just dreamt it up. So who knows? So the Adam could write the Afal Pisha Ein Makin, even though they don't know. The Adam wrote down, the Shchimera said he owes him $1, even though they don't know if he did. When the Yorshim collect the money, Sorach Lavi right of him. So you have to bring proof. The fact that they wrote it down doesn't mean anything. because they just wrote down what they heard from the Shemira. They weren't testifying that they saw the loan take place. You don't write it down. You don't write it down, because if you write it down, maybe a bezdin will say, okay, here's an IOU, you can collect with that. Notice you don't write it down unless the eight themselves knew that the loan took place. Maybe before the guy died, somebody came to him and said, can you give me some money? You're dying, can you give me some money? And lent him $100, I'll lend it to you. You owe me $100. So maybe the eight saw that. Unless they knew it, they shouldn't write it down, right? If they knew about it, and then they said, Reuben owes that the Yankel owed Shemir $100, then you don't have to bring any proof. That was good enough, because the Edom wouldn't sign on it, wouldn't even write on it unless they knew about it. That's what the Chum say. Rav Nachman says, no, the other Machlokas was the other way around. Again, Amrli Huna. Huna told him. Again, Rav Nachman and Rav Huna were colleagues. And he said, Huna told me that the Machlokas is the other way around. Tana, he learned, Rav Meir Omer Ein Kosman. Rav Meir says you don't write it down unless you know about it, because otherwise, you don't know for sure that it was done. And therefore, Ein Kosman, because you might make a mistake. But and since you don't write it down unless you know about it, that is a good shot. You could collect it. The Chum say you write it down anyway, and nobody's going to rely on it. They're not going to really rely on it. You have to Kosman, you write it down anyway, and you have to bring a proof. If the Orshim want to collect with it, they still have to bring proof. That's not a proof. The fact that they wrote it down is not a proof. Even Rav Meir, who says, according to Rav Huna, Rav Meir says you don't write it down. Why? You don't write it down unless you know about it. Why does he say that? Don't write down the Elam Mishum Bezdin, because you're afraid Bezdin will look at this document and say, oh, this is an IOU. It's signed by the Edom. They're afraid they'll sign or they'll collect with that. Right? That's why Rav Meir said it's not that you can't. The reason you don't write it down is because you're afraid of Bezdin Tom. But the Chum say you write it down, and Bezdin, you're not afraid that Bezdin will make a mistake. Rav Dimi min Arda. So Rav Dimi said the halacha is hilchasa ein choshen leBezdin Tom. You can write it down. The Edom who heard that the Shemira said that Yankel owes me $100, they can write down, yes, Yankel said that he was owed $100. Are you afraid that Bezdin will take that document and collect with it as if they're testifying to the loan itself? No, you're not worried about that. Why not? Rava. How is it different than Rava's case? What's Rava? The Rava, let's say a man and a woman come to court, and they say that he is the surviving brother. His brother died. There were no children. And this is his widow. We want to do chalitza now, right? Do you believe them that he is the brother-in-law? Do you believe him? Maybe she wants to get chalitza, and the real brother is overseas or doesn't want to come, doesn't want to take part in this, and maybe she put this guy up to it just so she can get a chalitza. So he says like this: I'm don't do chalitza. The bezdin doesn't unless they know they recognize this is the brother-in-law's the wife. Can also miyun. What's miyun? Remember, miyun is if a young girl under the age of 12 got kedushin drabanan. Her father had died or had married her off once before, and now she was a widow or divorced as a young girl, and then her mother or older brothers married her off. It's only kedushin drabanan. When she turns 12, she can refuse. So do we know really that the miyun has to take place in front of a court? And let's say the husband doesn't want to show up in court, and then maybe the family of the girl put up some other guy there. So how do you know that that's really the husband and wife? So it says over there, Rava says, "Ein chotzam ke makirim." Bezdin doesn't do chalitza unless they know the brother-in-law and the woman and the almana. And also you don't do miyun unless you know the husband and wife. Lefichach, therefore, kosvan get chalitza but get miyun. The way Rashbam learns, other Rishon learn differently. Rashbam learns, therefore, let's say Edom are testimony to this court case where there's a miyun or a chalitza, they can write it down. Lefichach kosvan get chalitza but get miyun. Even though they don't know. The Edom don't know. Let's say the Edom don't recognize this husband and wife or this brother-in-law and widow. They can write it down. Why? In other words, what do you see over here? You are worried about Bezdin making a mistake, meaning that the Bezdin should not officiate at a chalitza or a miyun ceremony unless they recognize the man and the woman, right? Therefore, the Edom can sign on it, even though the Edom don't even know. If the Edom are just saying, we were in the court when this and this took place, and that is proof that she got chalitza or this other girl got miyun, they can sign even though they don't know, because Bezdin wouldn't do it unless Bezdin signed on it. But what do you see? Mishum dechashav lebezdin time. Bezdin, again, the Bezdin who officiated at the chalitza of the miyun would not perform it unless they knew it. Therefore, unless they recognized they knew the people. Therefore, the Edom could sign on it. Why? Why can the Edom sign on it? They could sign on it because you can test it. You can rely that the Bezdin would have recognized these people, or else they wouldn't have performed. They wouldn't have officiated at this ceremony. So what do you see? You are worried about chesed. Rav Dimi said, "Oh, the Edom can sign on it even if they don't know that they don't know the loan took place between Yankel and the Shemera. Yeah, you're not worried about Bezdin making a mistake. They'll check it out." Here you are worried about Bezdin making a mistake because you say a Bezdin cannot officiate at a chalitza or a miyun unless they know them, because you're worried about if somebody signed on giving testimony to the get a chalitza and that was taken to a court later on to allow her to get remarried, etc. You are concerned about that. You are concerned that the second Bezdin would make a mistake, and therefore the first Bezdin must carefully check it out. So why do you say you're not worried about Bezdin making a mistake? And therefore Edom could sign on a document saying that the Shemera is owed by Yankel $100, even though they don't know it took place. And you're not worried about the Bezdin making a mistake and accepting that as testimony. Here you see you are worried about a mistake being made, and therefore a first Bezdin must know who these people are. This is low. Basar Bezdin, lo daiki. If a Bezdin will accept testimony of that took place in a prior Bezdin, because I can make a mistake. And as if Edom say, we were at Bezdin number 1, and we saw this chalitza and this miyun take place between these two people, that's good, because they say, well, if a Bezdin performed it, we're relying on that other Bezdin. But Bezdin and Basar Edom daiki, but just on testimony of Edom, who say what? We were at the deathbed of the Shemera, and he said that Yankel owes him $100. And the Edom said, yeah, we saw this is what the Shemera said, that the Yankel owes $100. They're not going to accept that as testimony. They're going to check it out. They're not going to accept that's not testimony that the thing took place. These are simply Edom who said, yeah, we saw Shemera say that Yankel owes him $100. But they're not testifying to the act itself. Therefore, they're going to check it out. Therefore, you could write it down. We were there, we saw them take place. Maybe this document will serve the Urshim or the Yisomim some purpose that they'll know. They'll go after Yankel now and they'll try to bring proof. But Bezdin won't rely on that case itself, and they won't rely on that document itself that says the Edom saw Yankel. We heard the Shemera say that Yankel owes him $100. You can write that down, because Bezdin's not going to rely on that to collect with that document. But if Bezdin, if this document says we Edom were in Bezdin number 1, and we saw this miyun or chalitza take place before a Bezdin of 3 people, that would be accepted by a second court automatically. Therefore, the first Bezdin must be careful and know who the woman and the man are.
Question.
Yeah.
I understand the chalitza thing because you have real issues of Zika and Eshathish. I mean, you have all these problems. But with miyun, is it the same thing?
Sure, because let's say the girl is turning 12 years old now, and she doesn't want to stay married to this guy. So she has to go to the court and say, I refuse, I don't want to marry this guy. The guy doesn't want to show up. He wants to keep her as a wife.
But it doesn't depend on him, it depends on her.
Depends on her, but she has to say, I don't want this guy. So the Bezdin has to know who the guy is. That's the point, you understand? They have to know who the guy is. So let's say, I don't want this guy. I don't want this guy. Or at least they have to know, even if he doesn't show up, even if he doesn't have to show up and take off a shoe or anything like that, but they have to know who she is and who the husband is. They have to know who she's being, whose marriage she's refusing from. They have to know that.
I believe you. I just don't understand.
No, they have to know, because otherwise,
I don't want to be married.
Yeah,
I'm 12 years old.
Okay.
Whoever it is, I don't know.
Yeah, whoever it is, yeah. But they need a document saying that she's no longer married. The Bezdin is like giving a document. This woman is free to marry. Maybe, how do you know that maybe she thinks she's married to somebody else or whatever it is, and therefore she's really.
There's a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference in you too, right? But you still have to know who she's married to. Otherwise, she could say, she thinks she's a child. She says, I'm refusing my marriage to Reuben, but actually she was married to Naphtali. so she never refused it. So you need a document to know, you have to, the best has to know who we're talking about, both the husband and the wife.
Isn't it good in the with the chalitza and in the meal? These are did the rices as opposed to did in Mullen.
Well, okay, yeah,
Okay.
that's true. That's true. But that's true. Well, the case of the mian is really drabanan. It's not the rice. But the issue is not the rice or drabanan. The issue is one in front of a court. If a first court will judge on something, a second court can rely on that. But a second court will not rely simply on the testimony of Adam, who said something took place, that this took place. In the first case, in the case of the court, Adam are testifying as to what took place in a court, right? So if it took place in a court, you can rely on the court that the court checked it out. If the court is looking at what Adam testified about, what they heard from a shchibera, and they would check that out. They wouldn't rely on that. They're not going to collect based on that. But they would enforce a chalitza or a mian based on the testimony of two Adam who said we saw this chalitza or mian take place, because they can rely on the court. A court of three would have checked things out carefully. Now, in the case again, going back to our case where a man gave everything away to his son, after he dies, gave everything away to this particular son after he dies. So what do we say? He's giving it me'ayom alachemisa. So the son gets the asset itself, the karka, let's say, right away. But the father keeps for himself the ability to get the income, the payros, while the father's alive. So while the father's alive, of tolesh umachil, he is entitled to cut down the trees, get all the income from the asset, even though the asset technically belongs to the son. So he can give it to whoever he wants. The father's entitled to all the payros while the father's alive. Remember, after the father dies, then everything reverts to the son. And of course, let's say he died and he had some stuff that was already detached from the trees or from the ground or whatever it was. That belongs to the Yorshim. Okay, what it means it belongs to the Yorshim, even if he gave it to a third person. Let's say he says, I'm not giving it to my son. After I die, I'm going to give it to Yankel. And he gets it back from right now. Okay, so but what does it mean? He gets it from right now, meaning I'm giving it to him after I die from right now, which means he's getting the asset, the karka, now while the man's alive, and after he dies, he gets everything. But let's say while he was alive, while the father was alive, he gets to keep all the fruits. Let's say the fruits were cut down from the tree and he hadn't given them away or eaten them up or whatever. That's part of the Yerusha. It goes to his sons. It doesn't go to the person that he gave the gift to. So the Gemara says, Tolish ein below, only what's attached and not what's still attached. Let's say there's fruits which are ready to be picked, but they're still attached to the ground. You're saying he only gives them what's Tolish and not mechuber. Vartanya, we learn, Shamanas mechubar and lokech, that let's say the father gave everything away let's say the father gave everything to his son, right? And so what does that mean? That the son gets the karka now, retroactively. After he dies, he gets it retroactively from the time he gave it to him. But the father eats the payros. Okay, let's say the father cut down payros. That's in Yerusha. That certainly goes to the son. What happens if the son sold it? Meanwhile, remember we said that the son can't really sell it because he doesn't have the payros yet, right? He can sell the karka, he can't sell the payros. And the father can't sell the payros. He can't sell the karka because he gave it to the son. So if the father sells, he could sell the payros. And if the son sells the karka, he could sell the karka, but he doesn't get the purchaser doesn't get the payros yet. Let's say the son sold it. What happens after the father dies? He gets then the purchaser gets the karka and any future income. Let's say the father had cut down the payros. Those payros go to the Orshim. Doesn't go to the person who bought the karka and anything that's grown now. Let's say there's fruits attached to the karka which the father hasn't yet cut down, but they could have been cut down. So you know what? That goes to the Orshim. Shamanas, or whatever's attached to the ground, Shamanas as a mechubar lokech. In other words, lokech gets the karka now after the father dies, because the son sold it to him. But whatever's attached to the karka, let's say it's worth $100, that the lokech has to give back to the Orshim, because that's considered like it's been detached already. So why do you say in the Mishnah, whatever's attached, that goes to the Orshim, even if it's whatever's detached goes to the Orshim, even what's attached also goes to the Orshim if it's ready to be picked? It depends what we're talking about. Oh, we're talking about to his son, that he would give, even what's attached goes to the son. But if it's to somebody else, so we say there that the son gets, that if he gave it to somebody else, if he's giving, if he gave everything to his son after he dies, so that means, and the son sold it everything, but he meant for his son, even what's attached to the ground, he wants to give that to his son, even though the son sold everything. So the purchaser gets the karka and future growth, but not what's attached to the ground, right? But if he's giving it to his son, then he's giving his son even what's attached to the ground. So Rashbam says, if the son sold it to somebody else, if the father gave it to somebody, the son, if the father gave it away to somebody else, he doesn't get what's attached. In other words, the father says, I'm giving it to you after I die, but while I'm alive, I get to eat the peiros. He also gets to eat the peiros that are still attached to the ground. That doesn't go to the purchaser, that goes to the son. So whether he gave the son everything to the son and the son sold it, what's attached to the ground at the time of death goes to the son. Whether he gave it to the son and the son sold it, or whether the father gave it away to somebody else, he gave away somebody else. He gave it to someone else. Not only did he gave away the asset itself and future growth, but whatever is attached to the ground still goes to the Yorshim. That's what we mean over here. Not only what's detached certainly goes to the Yorshim, because the father didn't give that. It's like saying, I gave him this asset. I didn't give him away cash. My cash goes to the children. What's detached from the ground goes to the Yorshim. Not only what's detached, even what's mechuber and ready to be detached also goes to the Yorshim. Whether the father gave it away to somebody else, or whether the son, whether the father gave it to the son and the son sold it to somebody else, what's detached certainly doesn't go to somebody else. Even what's attached to the ground but ready to be detached also doesn't go to somebody else, that goes to the Yorshim. All right, we'll pick it up tomorrow from the Mishnah. Have a good day. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.